Well, this is kind of a busy graphic. It looks at the last 70% of the COMM 1228 course. In the center are the informal and formal reports, the customer service report, and something I've called the endorsement package, which we can look down to the lower right-hand corner of the graphic and see that that's going to account for 40% of that last 70%. So my arithmetic says that perhaps 25 of the last 70 will be, as is indicated just below the center of the screen there, involved with the week 7 through 11 online class and survey points, which are 5 a week, and another test in week 12. The importance of bringing up the end of the course now is that when we get to the end of March and the first part of April, things move very, very quickly, and we may find ourselves without a good start on the final 40. So, looking at that, the other things that are in the background on this graphic, but we want to kind of consider them because the opportune time to take care of a lot of your portfolio work and your workplace mentoring work is now. And I guess the challenge is, what can we do when we're thinking about the last 40%? What ideas do you have? Maybe you would take a little initiative here, and it's your portfolio, of course. How can we make these informal and formal reports and this customer service report work for you for the background items of the portfolio and the workplace mentoring? I guess, to answer that question, it's probably a good idea to, visit the college website on what goes into a portfolio and take a look at the information that we have on workplace mentoring, learning skills in the workplace, and just perhaps brainstorm or think of some ideas about how we can bring those activities into the course and, come up with what I'm going to call it more than a BOGO, because we should be able to do better than just get one extra thing. Let's look at this little table and see what does it do in terms of giving us some ideas. Well, on the leftmost column, the course work plan, those are the what we've planned to do with COMM 1228. Now, as we look at, say, the informal and formal reports row, two things come to mind. The idea of a work sample is very important for your portfolio. I mean, that's the evidence, if you will, of the knowledge and skill that you have that's going to get you a job. So, it should be possible to somehow format that in a way that it would satisfy your requirement to learn about informal and formal reports. The other informal report that is part of the workplace mentoring, or can be part of the workplace mentoring, is a learning reflection, looking at the 6 attitudes that the apprenticeship agency wants you to know about. I think thinking about how you learn, thinking about how you learn to use a tool, for instance, a lot of those 6 points come to mind. Customer service, well, in a lot of trades today, when you're working residential, that's an essential part of the work that you're doing. And those human relationship skills and those customer service attitudes, it turns out that, when we look at what some of the customer service textbooks tell us, and that we can do that through the most recent PowerPoint presentation that I put together on customer relations, those attitudes are not a whole lot different from the kinds of attitudes that workplace mentoring would like you to develop. So there must be a nice match there that is, more than just one way to satisfy that customer service report requirement. Endorsement packages, well, this is, what are you going to use to say that you have skills and knowledge in your trade. We talk about the portfolio, and one of the ways to address that is perhaps with the e-portfolio, which is a way that in that powerful email that you've learned to write to get people to read your resume, now they could possibly get a link to your knowledge and skills. That's a lot of what the workplace mentoring is about. What evidence do you have that you practice those 6 learning skills? And so it's about, this 20 points is about gathering the evidence that will convict you of being a competent tradesperson and convict you of being ready to be an apprentice. Well, that's very good. So one step in doing that is this week's survey is also the online assignment. And because of that, it's probably worthwhile to go through it. First of all, you are given the choice on the first question as to whether you want to use it as an assignment or not. And, you don't have to do assignments. That's the way that you learn and the way you pick up a couple of points. So you say, well, if I don't identify myself by my student number, then I get to put whatever I want in the survey, and that's great. However, if you don't identify yourself by your student number, then we can't give you the 2 points for doing the assignment. So let's just say we select that we will identify ourselves by our student number, and we can continue. So obviously, the next step is to put in your student number and continue. All right. So if we're going to take seriously this business of trying to make the course work for us, when we write a report, it has to have a purpose. Are we trying to, provide evidence of some knowledge and skill that we have? Are we trying to provide some evidence that we understand the workplace mentoring? That could be the purpose. It's important, of course, and your textbook reminds you that, when we're writing reports, we have to understand who are our readers, who's reading our portfolio, who's reading workplace mentoring. It's not the instructor. I mean, the instructor's going to mark it, but the instructor's going to mark it as if you had written it for the person who's really going to cares about your knowledge and skill, your potential employer for your portfolio, and the person who really cares about how prepared you are for apprenticeship, the journey person for whom you're going to report. So we have to be clear on that, on who your readers are. There is a difference between reports and proposals. And proposals will be familiar to people who compete to build things like decks and gazebos and sheds. Often you persuade your readers that they should buy your shed, your gazebo, your ductless air conditioning solution, your electrical upgrade solution. So that's about, using your skills in that, but the idea is you're persuading your reader to buy, where a report is just sharing information. How to bend EMT, for instance, would be a report that shared information, how to install a mini split, how to use a miter saw. Those would be the reports that would be sharing information. And in most of the cases, that's the ones that fit with the idea of portfolio and workplace mentoring one. Reports that analyze, safety situation in a shop, or the best material to use for insulation, or the idea of what electrical services you may need for a particular room or house. Those are analytical reports, and they, provide the pros and cons, and don't do a whole lot to tell people about your specific knowledge and skills. I think, the school system tells us that the audience for our report is is internal to the college, I think we want to think about that because the more important audience is the folks who will want to read our work to give us a job or to understand how well prepared we are to do our apprenticeship. All right, so those are the questions that we're having in the back of our mind before we fill in those boxes. And when we decide that we're ready to submit our response, we will select the yes. And on doing that, when we continue, just so that we can, divide up your responses and address you in your class, identify which class you're in, and that way it'll be quite easy to do that. Okay, well, that's about it for now. So let's get on to working.